I said, okay, well, if the grade is based on passing the exam, then I'm not doing the homework anymore. I'm not attending the lectures in class, and I am just studying for the exam. How long have I been a coder? So I think I'm 35 years old. You kind of, doesn't matter anymore after you get married. You just get older. And I probably started coding the first code I ever wrote was probably around 15-ish, maybe a little earlier than that. But I started learning to program on purpose when I graduated from high school. Then I became a tech at a local high school. When I graduated, I applied, and they basically made me the person that carted around the TVs from one room to another in the classrooms. But what I did was I modified a program that I installed locally and made available to all the teachers that would register who wanted what. So instead of calling me, they would just register it on their computer. So instead of calling the computer lab, and I also got rid of all the computer viruses across the entire school. And I got each lab that had a specific type of computer. So for each type of computer that we had in the school, which I think we had 2 or 3 different types of computers, I I used one of those Linux disk streaming disk formatting programs so that I could just get every computer in the school on the exact same version of Windows with the same software installed, because before they were doing it one by one for 100 different computers. I mean, it takes less time to figure out how to build the solution than to, go through all the computers. So once I'd done that within the first couple of months of that being my job, the rest of my time was freed up to basically do whatever I wanted because I'd automated my job away, and they were happy with that. And so that's when I was really learning. I had that free time. And then when I got to college is when it really kicked off, because then I was around people that were way smarter than me. Because before then I was kind of on my own. I was the smartest person in the room in most rooms. So it was difficult. I mean, I know that sounds super arrogant. Whatever, I don't care. That's the way that it was. And so it was hard for me to learn more because I didn't have mentorship. Most people were not as ambitious as I was. It was high school. Most kids just wanted to screw off and play video games, and they didn't. Even though I got into a technical program, the other kids, they weren't actually studying the technical program most of the time. So I finished all 3 years of the program in just 1 year, and it was really weird. So okay, story time. I I went to a technical high school in Vermont, and they actually was a 2 year program. If there had been a third year, they made a deal that if you passed the exam, the technical exam, which was the CompTIA A plus exam, which is basically if you want to get an entry level job in IT, basically tech support, answering phone calls for example, a school or a business, really low tier support, but proves you've got the basics of how to use Windows and some networking and maybe just like this much Linux. So the A plus exam, if you pass the exam, you got an A for the year. And so after a few weeks of class, I realized that if I did the homework was going to take me so much time to do that I'd basically never be able to finish the exam early, or not that it would take a long time to get to the point. So I said, okay, well, if the grade is based on passing the exam, then I'm not doing the homework anymore. I'm not attending the lectures in class, and I am just studying for the exam. And so I studied for the exam, and I passed it in the second quarter, and the grades were taken at the end of the second quarter and the end of the fourth quarter. So I passed the exam before the end of the second quarter, and I was failing the class because I wasn't doing any of the homework. But I passed the exam, and then they reneged on their offer because they said if you pass the exam, you got an A for the year. Well, no one had ever taken them up on it like that, and got it done in the middle of the second quarter. And so in the third quarter, they said, well, actually, we have to have you take the second year program because we can't actually justify this, I guess, legally or something. You know, there was an issue where they couldn't they couldn't hold to their word, which is, you know, fine by me because I was already studying basically the second year stuff anyway. I'd moved on to studying Linux, and so then I again, same thing. There was no homework for me to do essentially because it was just, you know, hey, you go pass the exam. So I did that. I just studied. I actually studied the Linux stuff first, and then I studied the networking stuff because Network Plus was the second year program, and Network Plus was so easy after doing A plus because A plus is, you know, somewhere between half and three quarters of what you need for Network Plus because you just have to know about all the DNS and IP and host file and all those things. So you need to learn. You do need to learn significantly more, but I don't know that I had to study for it as much as just take a bunch of practice exams. It didn't study for it the way that I studied for A plus or that I'd studied for Linux Plus. So I got that done. And then it was actually the week after graduating that I took the Linux Plus exam, which would have been, if they had a third year, that's what the third year would have been. That's what the teacher had me going on. Said, yeah, you want to learn Linux. That's where you want to go. And so he had me learning that. And so I actually corrected questions on the test because they had a beta exam for the new Linux certification that was just coming out. And so I actually had more up-to-date information than what was available on the exam. And so they had a comment on the exam, places for putting comments. And so there was a couple of ones where I said, I selected this answer because it's probably what you expected. But in truth, as of Linux kernel 2.6.15 or whatever it was at the time, this is the correct answer. So that is my high school story with I guess not wasting time. I don't know what to call that. I don't know what do we say that is. But that's my story. That's how I got in a position where I was able to get a job straight out of high school. And I didn't get paid well. I could have gotten paid well, but I didn't know that. I didn't realize just because when I got to college and I started taking IT classes in college, what I found out is that what I had learned just through that process in 1 year basically put me at where the third year students were in college classes. So there was a bug in the software for registering classes because there was supposed to be this prerequisite system and it was supposed to check the prerequisites. But at the time, there was a bug in the prerequisite system. And so as a freshman, you could sign up for junior, is it junior, senior, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior? Yeah, junior level classes without the prerequisites because of this bug. And so I signed up for junior level classes. I don't know if I did it in my freshman year or my sophomore year. I think it was towards the end of my freshman year. Anyway, and so I was able to go in those classes, some of those classes, and find out that basically I was ahead of the junior students because of what I'd done in high school. And again, but it was the same thing. It was the same stupid thing. It wasn't, and this is one of the things that frustrates me because was I really that special of a person? Or is it just that people were making really dumb choices? Because in college, I found the same thing, that because the college provided these great computers for the people that were in the IT programs, because I don't know that anybody in an IT program actually needs a great computer. Probably the crappier computer, the better, really, because that's what the actual people that they're going to be servicing in businesses and whatnot use. But they basically had gaming machines in the lab. And so they would just play games all the time rather than actually use that. I mean, why are you going to pay money to go to school? You pay money to go to school and then just slack off, right? What a wasted opportunity. Because the point of college is not just to slough through college. And I understand, you know, if your goal is to be a mechanic and you got to deal with high school and you don't have a technical program with a mechanic class at your high school, which most don't, but in some areas they do. In both of the areas where I lived, in Virginia and in Vermont, they had technical programs for things like that. So I was really lucky. And I think even here in Utah, where I live now, I think there's technical programs that they have a partnership with one of the colleges. I think the high school kids come and take mechanic classes at one of the local colleges if they want to, and then there's that zone or whatever. But anyway, why would you do that? Why would you go and and you know you're doing something. If you don't go to college, if you don't want to do something that requires a college degree, that's just silly. And if you do go to college, then daggone it, be one of the best so that you don't end up trying to figure out how to get a job. You're one of the ones that could just get it. But anyway, what I'm saying is I didn't make good money. I made basically just above minimum wage, but I couldn't be happier because I was able to use that time. I just said this part of the story earlier, but I'll repeat it since we'll clip this in. So I was an AV tech and I automated away my job. I got all the computer labs so that they were in sync, so that we would image 20 computers at a time in this lab, 20 computers at a time in this lab, and we're able to get everything up to date just within a matter of hours rather than a matter of days. And then I automated away. I found some software to do the booking system, so that instead of getting calls to cart TVs around, I could just have teachers register where they wanted to be, and then they could see who had the TV too, right? Because then it was available to them on their computer. They could just open up their computer. If they wanted the TV, they didn't even need me to go get it for them. They could just see which room it was in. And so I basically just automated away my job at that high school the first year after high school. And then that's when I started on my learning to program journey before college, which is what led into this whole start of the clip.